Hey y'all, hey! All my late booming babes, welcome back to the channel. It's me, your host Dawn. And today, of course, we're going to be here for another video. As you can see, it's a lovely day. I'm on my scroll, as I usually am on lovely days. And my video for today. I was thinking, since my boys are both with their father right now, that's pretty much what got my wheels turning to talk about this topic. And that topic is how you staying in a narcissistic and or toxic relationship for the kids is ruining not only you, but the kids as well. I talked about this topic, or wanted to talk about this topic anyway, because that's a lot of the times an excuse that we use as a reason to stay in these kind of negative relationships, especially when there's kids involved, because we ideally would like the children to grow up in a two-parent household with both their mom and dad under the same roof. But when it comes to toxic and or narcissistic relationships, that's not the best thing for them. Of course, no one wants to go through that, not having their child or children with them 24/7. Of course you wouldn't. You're a good parent. But when it comes to these types of relationships and situations, unfortunately, that's what's best for them. It's better for them to be in a healthy environment at least some of the time, opposed to a negative environment all of the time. Because, like I said, staying in these situations and environments not only impact you, they impact your kids. No matter how much you try to hide it from them, no matter what you tell them as far as the reasoning for going through what you're going through, no matter how much you try to explain and things like that, kids are more receptive to what they're seeing opposed to what you're telling them, especially if what they're seeing and what you're saying don't align, don't match up. So it is, like I said, better for you all to split, even if there are children involved. Because like I said, part of the time is better than all of the time. Because of course, if we could, go back in time, and jump in the DeLorean, then of course we might have made different decisions. The reason I say that it ruins not only you, but the children is for a few different reasons. As far as you are concerned, when you're in a negative relationship where there's constant arguing, constant abuse, you can't get on the same page, just so much drama and toxicity, that makes you, the person receiving that energy, shrink within yourself. You become a shell of yourself, really. Like, you don't want to say certain things, you're walking on eggshells, you don't want to cause the next argument, and you just don't want things to escalate to a place where they don't need to escalate, especially when there are children involved. But of course, in these relationships, you don't have control over that dynamic. You just have to deal with it, and it will inevitably explode and become a situation no matter what you do. So for you, you're always living in fight or flight mode. Everything could be a trigger. Anything can be a trigger because you're just so on the defense about everything, because that's what you're used to. Inevitably, no matter what you do, what you say, how you act, there's going to be an issue. And for the children, they have to deal with that. You can't be the best parent you can be to your children if you're not the best version of yourself. And you can't be the best version of yourself if you're a shell of yourself because of what you're going through in the relationship dynamic. So that hinders you from giving your all to your children. And because your children didn't ask for you to bring them into the world, they deserve your all at all times. And the only way that you're going to be able to give them that is if you detach and remove yourself and them, especially if it's a dangerous situation, from the toxic relationship. Now, of course, unless it's extenuating extreme circumstances, you can't prohibit them from seeing the other parent, because that is half their child as well. So, if it's a possibility, or if it's somewhat healthy, or to they're not getting, you know, beat down or things like that, they have to be given their parental rights as well, unless you got the courts involved and, you know, they've determined otherwise. So you can't stop them from seeing that parent. So they're going to be in a toxic relationship, you know, when they're with them, unfortunately. But like I said, if they have a place or a reprieve to where, you know, when they're with you, they can decompress, they don't have to deal with that stress and anxiety that arises from that toxic environment with that other parent, then that's going to be the best thing. Because like I said, kids feel all of that. Even if you two are sitting in silence because you're just stewing and upset with each other, the kids will feel that. You know, for me, I would never like to argue in front of my son when I only had one son, because my baby is just 2. So even before he came, I tried my best not to argue in front of our child. But of course, the other person didn't really care about that. They were just, you know, once they black out into that narcissistic rage, they just black out. It doesn't matter what's going on, who's around, whatever. Especially if they're home. Now, if they're in public, they'll try to contain it because they want to keep their image that they're just great and wonderful. So they'll try to hold it back. But once it starts bubbling over, they just black out and they don't care who's impacted by it, because they just have to. They can't control themselves. But he would see us arguing. And for me, one of those straws that really broke the camel's back was when me and his father got into a really bad argument. We were going back and forth, yada, yada, yada. And he sent a message to our group thread. It was me, his father, and him, of course, because by now he's old enough to have his own cell phone. And he just was like, why are y'all always arguing? Why are y'all always fighting? And I knew then, like, for sure, had to get rid of it, had to get out of it, because up until that point, that was my reason. I wanted to stay for the kids. I didn't want to have to divide my time with my child, or I didn't want to have him bouncing from one place to the next, you know, having to see this parent this day or this parent that day, or having to split holidays and birthdays and all of that stuff. I didn't want to have to do that. But when he messaged us that, it really sunk in for me that maybe you thought you were, you know, keeping it from him or not involving him, but he sees it. Even with my baby, when I was pregnant with him, because we would get into all this arguing, yelling, when my son is born, even to this day, he's 2 now, but even to this day, loud noises trigger him. He jumps, he fidgets at loud noises, because even in utero, he was exposed to that arguing and back and forth. So no matter how much you try to keep it from them, or, you know, try your best to just raise them in a healthy environment, this is impossible if you're staying in a toxic environment. So it's always best to just get out of it. You know, like I said, if you can get out of it before you have children, that's the absolute best thing to do. But if unfortunately you already have the children, you can't give them back. You know, they're here. It is what it is. So you have to get out of your own feelings and your own emotions and do what's best for them, even if that means you all splitting up, because most times that is what it means. You staying and keeping them in that argument, in that toxicity where they can't escape it, they don't have any reprieve, they're just dealing with that all the time, that eventually, as they get older, they'll end up resenting both of you, not just that toxic parent. They'll resent you too, because you weren't strong enough and didn't care enough for them in their mind to get them away from it. So that's just something to think about, because it's really important. Like I said, the kids didn't ask to be here, but because they are, you have to do what's best for them. And that, most of the time, is leaving that toxic relationship, because you're not the only one experiencing it. They are experiencing it also by proxy. So hope this helps you guys, and until next video.